Alright guys, B&M shifter time and CB products transfer case shifter. I sure hope it's CB. I can't remember now. Now that I'm editing this, I totally forgot. So this is just an old school ratchet shifter and then a very simple transfer case shifter that is cable drive. So the transfer case shifter is all stainless steel, so you don't have to worry about painting that one, which is kind of cool. All the parts the hardware is stainless. The only thing not stainless on it is some parts of the cable itself. And that would be it. So these ratchet shifters, nothing has changed in the last 20 years on these things. They just kind of made them a little prettier. And they are a little bit more refined, but they're still the very, very basic ratchet shifter. There's nothing super special about them. And it still has that cable sticking out of the front of the housing. Like they used to, that goes through the floor at a drastic angle, which I've never really liked. But it works. It is hard to grommet those cables going through the floor if you're trying to build something really nice. My suggestion would be to try to find some cars have speedometer cables that go through floors at really goofy angles, and some cars have e-brake cables that go through floors, and it's actually like a clamp style thing. That you may be able to work if you want to seal it up on your floor. It doesn't come with anything of the sorts though, so you're kind of left to find a grommet for that on your own. So it just depends on what you're doing it for. I originally drilled and tapped this plate. That ended up being a pain in the butt getting the bolts in and out. So I ended up just through drilling it after fighting them for a little while. You'll see me just go through and drill them out. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. I usually like doing stuff like that so you don't have to go under the car and put a nut on a bolt. It just makes that's a hassle. I'm in the situation with this thing where I can just lift it up and get to the bottom, so it's okay. Otherwise, I may have just dealt with a pain in the butt bolts. And put like thread inserts in the floor. I like doing stuff like that too. So that's that. So now we're going to lay out for the shifter. I guess I did lay out for the shifter, and I'm going to drill everything on mine at the angle since my plate that's 1/4 inch thick plate. So I drilled it all at the angle. If you were going straight through, that probably wouldn't have been as necessary. You still would have had to oblong it, or at least stretch your metal so the cable could go through at that drastic angle. But I just went ahead and drilled it at the angle and then kind of just cleaned it up with die grinder. We're probably going to wrap this cover in the center. And then I'm going to paint the aluminum on the outside and then distress it. I think I'll rub it through and then just so it kind of looks well used, just to fit the rest of the use of the car. I mean, this car is not fully restored. We're just kind of giving it a once over. So that's that. So now I'm putting on the micro switches, and my micro switch, the upper micro switch, wasn't quite falling into the detent consistently. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. It would get hung up on the upper edge. So I just filed mine down a little bit, the upper edge of the slot that it goes in, just to make sure it works. And so I got that. So now I'm just going to assemble it, and then we're going to move on to the transfer case shifter, and then I'll go live here in just a second, and I'll kind of explain how that thing works. All right, so this is the back corner that shifter is going to be in. And basically the thing's going to be rigid to about even with this, but down here. And it should fit, barely, it should fit above the transfer case there. And then what's really unfortunate is this is the lever we need to be on. So I'm basically going from exactly the lever, and I have to go all the way down and make a loop with the cable to come back and grab the lever from the back side. It's so close, we could almost just hook up to this and we'd have a backwards shift pattern on the transfer case, but I don't know if it would it probably would work. We probably could come up with a way of doing it that way. But for the sake of time, I'm just gonna have to do that. We should have plenty of space to do the loop. It has to be a bigger than 12-inch loop. So, all right, so this X right here, if that's not hiding it, that's the cross member that's in there roughly. It's in there. And if you remember from the video we just took, the shift lever is pretty much just below that. Which is right where the hard part of this is. It will be below it, probably in here somewhere. But basically it means that's going to have to do a U-turn. And luckily it does come up at an angle like that. So we are pushing our limits on our capabilities of this cable. We're at the bare minimum of what's acceptable on it. We got a 12-inch circle. That's the minimum radius bend. But it's there. So I'm just going to go ahead and stab this thing in right there. All right, so to start with, I'm just doing a layout. Always measure once, cut twice, I think is the saying. Maybe it's the other way around. So I'm going to use a hole saw for my ends of my slot. And then that's ore lube. That's what I'm putting on that. It's called ore lube, O-R-E lube. I used to be able to buy it at Boeing Surplus. I don't know where you get it now. There's no more Boeing Surplus. And if you're not local to the Seattle area, then that wasn't an option either. But anyway, you can probably look it up. I have quite a bit of it still, so I'm still running on stuff that I've had for a really long time. So I just put it on upside down, hoping that the shifter is symmetrical. It is. So I just put it on upside down, transferred all the holes, drilled it, and then hopefully it'll just fit in the right way when I go to flip it over. I end up kind of changing my mind on a few things on this thing. And I'll talk to you about those here in just a second. But I'm using that ore lube again. That stuff works really good on aluminum. It keeps stuff from sticking to your tooling. It works good on steel too as like a cutting oil, but it seems to really work good on aluminum. So that's primarily what I use that stuff for. And once you put it on your tool, it like soaks in. It is a really weird stuff. It has a really low melting point. It melts pretty much in your like fingers. It'll melt, but normally it's like a wax. I drilled mine and actually put thread inserts in the shifter. So that's what I'm doing right there is I'm drilling the shifter out. I modify everything. I void warranties. I don't think there's a thing I own that I haven't voided the warranty on. But I put thread inserts in it just so that it's easier to install and remove. And then I have the shift boot is already drilled as well. And that's where I'm going to change my mind. And this is what I'm messing with it right now. I don't really like the looks of the boot on this thing. So I kind of have a little bit of a head scratcher moment. And I'm going to modify some stuff here. And I'm going to explain that to you here live in just a second. Okay, so you saw me put this plate in there. That's not the intention of it. It's supposed to go on top of it as a trim ring and then bolt down. I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of ugly. It was too thick in here, and I know when I tighten it down, it was going to be like curvy, which would be fine if this was on your floor like it's intended to be. You wouldn't really notice because you'd have that on carpet or a rubber floor or whatever you're doing it on, and it wouldn't be that noticeable. But us being on a console, that's not really going to work. So I kind of just beavered that out a little bit. We call it beaver anytime you cut a nasty cut like that. I cut that out so I get the plate inside of it. And then we're going to put ours in from the bottom and then actually sandwich it in. So we're going to countersink these ones now. So we'll end up with 8 countersink screws around it. I wasn't planning on doing it that way, so I didn't cut that as nice as I would have had I been planning on that. But that's okay. I'm going to clean this up a little bit and try to smooth it out with that little die grinder thing again, and then I'll countersink these guys, and then I'm going to have to get longer screws. These were just barely long enough to hold it. I'm going to have to get some longer ones so that I can hold it on there now that boot's going to be in between. That'll be nice too because it will actually seal it up real good. So here I go. Okay, so you see me putting ore lube on the countersink bit and stuff too, and you also see me hitting the bits with a torch, that little propane torch. If you haven't noticed that, I do that just so that ore lube will melt and kind of soak into the metal. You don't get it hot; you just get it to like 90 degrees or something. That's about seems like the melting point of that stuff. It is a weird product. I really would like to see what it's actually doing, but it does work really good, especially for keeping aluminum from galling on the kind of building up on your cutters. Anyway, there goes. It worked out. I had already gone to this. I went to the store and came back. That's why I have fasteners now there, so they just instantly showed up. And now I'm just going to install it. And make sure everything kind of is where I want it to be and doesn't hit anything, and it worked out. So and then we're going to go underneath the car. This is the passenger side of the car, so that's the shifter cable for the transfer case that you're looking at right there. It is extremely hard to see from underneath where that thing is. So I'm cramming the camera in there, and you spoiler alert. All the video that I took of me trying to put that thing in there, you couldn't see a thing except for my arms. So I just kind of show you later what I did instead of how I did it. It just bolts on. Everything just bolts on. It's really easy to do. There's really not even that much of adjustment involved in it because there's no notches in the shifter. It's just a lever, so that you're still feeling the notches in the transfer case itself. So that's what's determining where the shifter stops and starts. So I am again voiding another warranty. I didn't want to bolt it down to the bottom of the pan like they show you. I wanted to use I have a Turbo 350 and I actually have the mounting holes on the side. And unfortunately they don't give you a bracket for those, but I'm able to modify the pan bracket so that it'll work. I just have to bend the cable mount ear over. So I'm just going to bend it going so it's pointing the other direction, and then I'll cut it off and modify it and clean it up, and then we'll actually mount it to the side of the transmission instead of the oil pan bolts, and that just helps. I don't know. I don't like sticking stuff on the oil pan bolts. It always seems like they leak and. Seep. I shouldn't say they don't leak, but they seep. They always seem like they have transmission fluid coming out of them. And then no matter how much gasket maker and stuff you stick on them, they always do. So I just heated it up, poured a band off the part I didn't need, cleaned it up, and now we'll go put it in. Okay, so now installing this thing, my exhaust ended up. I put my exhaust too close. I wish I had put the exhaust farther to the outside. I was trying to save bends, so I didn't want to go to the inside and then have to bend out to match the passenger or the passenger side. So we end up having to exhaust wrap it, and there's video of that here coming up as well. Putting this thing in, I like to do it like put the transmission in drive and then put the shifter up top in drive. Line everything up, and then put it in. You very rarely does that not work out to where it's clicking in and all the gears. But every once in a while, maybe you'll have to do some adjustment. But for the most part, it works out every time. All you got to do is tighten it up. Tighten all your stops, and it works out. So you can see me shifting it there. And I was actually watching it from the top. I slid the cover over a little bit so I could kind of peek at it, make sure everything was working. Otherwise, it is nice to have a friend or someone come over to make sure. So you put it in second, you make sure it's actually clicked into second. While everything's new and tight, if your adjustment's slightly off, it'll hold the transmission just slightly from going in all the way. So when I put these exhaust wraps on, I wrap it kind of loose. Get the clamp on the one end, and then you can actually spin it and kind of tighten it by, like Chinese finger trap type thing. Just start twisting it around, and then put your clamp on the other side. And I like to put a clamp. I use the metal zip ties with the tool. If you use the tool, they work. If you don't, for some reason, they always slip off. I don't know why that is. I think the bend that the tool puts in them or something helps them lock. But anyway, I use the tool and I put one every wrap. So I usually do like a 50% overlap, and then there's a strap on every wrap. So there it is, all done. It looks pretty nice. You can get real fancy with the end as well. I just put the end up top, but you can also, while it's real loose, fold it over and tuck it underneath itself, and then when you tighten it, it'll tighten the end in, and that'll keep it from unraveling. And I'll show you how to do that here on a later time. But you can do that stuff. It unravels. That's the problem with that stuff, is it unravels. So, but there are ways of overcoming that so that the ends are always underneath of it, and then you tighten it up afterwards and then clamp it. So now we're just installing the covers and the handle. These ones have a fancy handle. Which looks really cool, but if you ever have to get into that thing, it's going to be really annoying because you have to take out all the little tiny hardware and stuff and take it apart. It goes on in 2 layers. So if you ever have to get into your shifter, which we are going to have to because I have to unbolt it later so that we can wrap the top, it is going to be annoying that I have to take all that stuff off to get the cover back off. Oh, I can't wait to drive this thing. It's starting to look really cool. Okay, so the B&M shifter, kind of just dolled up old school one, but they are nice. They're nice. They were good before, and they've kind of just accessorized them a little bit, and they made them a little nicer. It works. So on a Turbo 350 and any GM, I think Ford and Chrysler wouldn't be this way, but you got to double pull it out of park. That's the most annoying thing about these. So now I'm in reverse, then neutral, that's drive, that's second and first. I have standard pattern valve body. It's manual valve body, but standard pattern. So that then coming back up, that's drive. To get to neutral, you push that, and then you're in neutral, reverse, and then double click park. It's a longer travel. Sometimes you can get away with not double clicking them into park. I always do, especially if you're not 100% confident in your e-brake. This J&B shifter, JB Custom Fab. Sorry guys, I'm probably butchering your company. Really good stuff. I like this. If I were to find anything that I had to pick apart, it's just this boot, and I guarantee that bothers them too. But it's hard to get stuff like this manufactured, and really everyone goes to China, and then you know what happens with those ones from China. First time they hit the sun, they're cracking and they're splitting apart. They're not good rubber. We'll see what kind of rubber this is and how well it holds up. It's probably going to be all right. It looks like something from a 4x4 van conversion. That's what these look like. The boots, they used to have to kind of put them under the seat. So that's kind of what they looked like. Anyway, long story, but the shift knob's badass. And then this is a 208. It's just standard pattern still. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We will see you again very soon. I have a lot of video to edit yet and get out. As I'm telling you this, I'm only 2 steps away from first start on this Safari Wagon. I'm going to flip around and show you the intake on it because I haven't filmed that yet. So there it is. It turned out really, really good. I didn't film building that. Oh, I was hitting my camera. I didn't film doing that one, and I'm actually kind of glad I didn't, except for the fact that I think people would have been very interested in how I did that. But it was so much trial and error. I would have had to edit. It probably took me 20 hours to build that stupid box on the top and get it so that it fits right, so that the shaker is sitting through the hood the way it's supposed to. The only thing that I don't like about it is it does sit up high, so the shaker is sticking up farther than it should be. It's not hitting the bottom of the hood or anything, but it is sitting up higher than it would be on like a Trans Am. And I don't particularly like that, but I had no choice. You could see how thin this was getting in here just to clear the runners on the intake. So anyway, it is what it is. Eventually that'll be coming off because I do want to put a supercharger on this car later, and then that will be my shaker hood. So we'll have to just recut the hood for that one. So anyway, lots of episodes coming out. Car show on Father's Day, no balls, link below. Check it out. We will see you again very soon with episodes on this. And a lot of others. I got a lot of car episodes, different cars, episodes coming out very soon. So stay tuned. I'm working on a secret project too, that's actually going to be a really, really cool, couple of episodes. So stay tuned for that. I can't tell you what it is though, because it's a secret. But when it comes out, you'll know it because you're going to love it.